Imagine spending like 15 years mastering the ultimate corporate magic trick.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Right, you've basically dedicated your entire adult life to turning chaotic, messy data into flawless, perfectly optimized spreadsheets. You are the operational wizard of your department.
The spreadsheet guru.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then tomorrow morning, a $20 a month software subscription does your exact job.
Hmm.
And it does it better than you ever could in about 3.4 seconds.
Yeah. It's a brutal reality check, honestly.
It really is. I mean, what happens to your identity when operational excellence, the very thing society told you was the key to success, is just, well, no longer a human job?
It's devastating because society has spent decades drilling a very specific formula into your head, right? From the moment you step into kindergarten to the day you sit in your first cubicle, the message is just relentless.
Work hard, minimize errors, be the best.
Exactly. You have to master your specific domain. We literally worship at the altar of smooth workflows. But reading through the sources for this deep dive, especially JJ and Ponce's analysis, you realize something terrifying.
That the sacred cow of the modern business world is being slaughtered.
Pretty much. Operational excellence is being quietly dismantled by automation. And, it hurts. It really hurts.
That hurts deeply. And honestly, that is exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We're going to explore why simply being excellent at a repetitive task is no longer your competitive advantage.
Right.
We'll dig into the psychology sources to see why this technological shift is causing professionals so much profound psychological distress, and, most importantly, how you have to pivot your mindset to actually stay relevant.
Because to understand why this feels like a literal existential threat to you, we have to first look at how technology has fundamentally inverted the value of human expertise.
Yeah, the inversion is wild. It basically comes down to a shift from scarcity to abundance. Historically, true expertise was, well, it was incredibly rare.
Oh, for sure. If you were the one person in the room who could quickly interpret complex market data, you were a god.
Right, you were highly rewarded for it. But now, expertise is cheap. It's totally abundant. The Better Trader analysis in our sources highlights this perfectly when they look at the financial sector.
Yeah, let's look at how that actually works on a mechanical level. Because a human trader analyzing economic data relies heavily on their memory, right? And whatever spreadsheets they can build.
Yeah, they might look at a jobs report, inflation numbers, maybe like 3 other historical metrics. That is their limit.
Exactly. But Better Trader shows how artificial intelligence doesn't just read faster. It fundamentally changes the entire scope of analysis. It analyzes thousands of macroeconomic data points spanning decades.
In milliseconds.
Yes. Within milliseconds, it finds causal relationships and hidden patterns that the human brain biologically just cannot process in real time.
So think about navigating a cross-country road trip. Relying on your manual analysis today is like using a folded-up paper map from 1998.
Oh man, the ones you could never fold back together.
Right? You're sitting at the kitchen table with a yellow highlighter, trying to calculate the most efficient route based on static, outdated information. You're super proud of your highlighted route. It shows your expertise.
But your competitor is using Waze.
Exactly. They're using Waze, which is dynamically routing them around a traffic jam that hasn't even fully formed yet.
Yeah.
And it's doing that based on the real-time speed of millions of other phones.
So if you are still relying on your manual analysis, you aren't just a little slower. You are playing an entirely different, losing game.
And here's where we have to clarify something critical about these tools, because it's not just about speed. Impansa makes a brilliant point about enterprise platforms like Power Automate, Zapier, or massive systems like SAP S/4HANA.
Right. They don't just do the exact same things you did, but faster. They completely upend the underlying logic of how and when a business operates.
Which is huge. How so, though? Because a lot of people just assume Zapier is like a fast digital assistant.
Well, think about the mechanics of a traditional workflow. The logic used to be batch processed, right? And very human-centric. A human would wait until Friday to gather all the invoices.
Manually verify them against inventory, yeah.
Exactly, and then approve the payments in one big batch. The human was the total center of gravity. But an enterprise resource planning system like SAP S/4HANA, which essentially acts as the digital brain for a company's entire supply chain, changes the trigger.
So instead of a human deciding it's time to process invoices.
Right. The system triggers a cascade of actions the exact millisecond an inventory threshold is crossed or an email arrives. It verifies the stock, reconciles the ledger, and initiates the payment instantly.
Without a human ever even knowing it happened.
Exactly. It decenters the human entirely.
Which brings up a fascinating, if slightly depressing parallel from behavioral psychology. Reading the sources on learning theory, you really can't help but look at Edward Thorndike's famous experiments.
The ones with the cats.
Yeah, Thorndike would put cats in these wooden puzzle boxes, and the cats had to learn, by trial and error, that if they pressed a specific lever, a door would open, and they'd get a piece of fish.
Ah,
Over time, they mastered the lever. The behavior was completely conditioned. And for decades, knowledge workers have essentially been Thorndike's cats.
oh, wow. I hate how accurate that is. We learned that if we pull the spreadsheet lever faster or format the quarterly report perfectly, the corporate door opens and we get the fish.
Right, we get the bonus.
But humans are a bit more complex than cats pulling levers, right? This is where Edward Tolman's psychological research adds a crucial layer.
Tolman was the one with the rats in the mazes.
Yeah, he ran experiments with rats in mazes, and he proved that they weren't just mechanically responding to rewards, they were actually building internal cognitive maps of the maze.
Oh, interesting. So they were learning the whole layout of their environment.
Exactly. And human professionals do exactly this. You don't just pull the spreadsheet lever, you build a massive, complex cognitive map of your company's workflow.
Yeah, like you know that if you send the formatted report to Sarah in accounting by Tuesday, she'll approve the budget by Thursday.
Right, which then allows you to launch the project on Friday. You are so proud of your mental map.
I see where you're going with this. The AI didn't just learn to pull the lever faster.
Exactly. The AI flattened the entire maze. It automated the spreadsheet, bypassed Sarah entirely, and instantly allocated the budget based on algorithmic forecasting.
The puzzle box is just gone.
Yeah. The maze you spent 20 years mapping out in your head is completely obsolete. So it begs the question, are we just highly trained rats staring at an empty room?
Man, that is bleak. So the maze is flattened. But for the professional who spent 2 decades mastering every dead end and shortcut of that specific maze, that isn't just a workflow change.
No, that is a full-blown identity crisis.
Right. Why does a $20 piece of software make us question our actual fundamental human worth?
Well, because of how our identities are constructed from the time we're literally toddlers, the psychologist Carl Rogers coined a concept called conditions of worth.
Conditions of worth. Okay, unpack that for me.
So from childhood, we were conditioned by our parents, our teachers, and society to believe that our value is strictly conditional. We are only worthy of affection and acceptance if we meet certain output requirements.
So, like, you get an A in math. You get praised. You sit quietly and finish your worksheet. You are a good kid.
Exactly. And Erickson's stages of psychosocial development map this out perfectly. Look at his 4th developmental stage, which he called industry versus inferiority.
That happens, what, around early elementary school?
Right. Right between the ages of 5 and 12, the exact time we are dropped into the traditional school system. Erickson argued that during these formative years, children literally learn to equate their self-esteem with their ability to produce work.
To be industrious.
Yes. If you can master the skills valued by your teachers, you feel competent. If you can't, you develop a lasting sense of inferiority. So we spend our entire childhoods fusing our sense of self-worth with our productivity.
Which makes the current technological shift absolutely devastating. You take an adult who has spent 30 years believing their right to exist in the professional world is entirely dependent on their unique ability to execute complex data analysis.
And suddenly, an algorithm does it flawlessly. It shatters their conditions of worth.
It's the ultimate trigger for an inferiority complex. Alfred Adler built his entire psychological theory around this. Adler pointed out that every human experiences feelings of inferiority starting in childhood.
Well, yeah, simply because children are small, weak, and surrounded by adults who are stronger and smarter, right?
Exactly. But Adler argued that this uncomfortable feeling of inferiority is actually the core engine of human progress. It motivates us to learn, to grow, and to achieve competence so we can finally overcome that inferior status.
But didn't Adler also warn about what happens when you face a challenge you mathematically cannot overcome?
Yes, he did. If a person is constantly defeated, those normal feelings of inferiority metastasize into an unbalanced personality, a true inferiority complex. They just shut down.
And look at the modern workplace. The stronger, smarter people surrounding us aren't just intimidating senior executives anymore.
No, they are large language models and machine learning bots.
Bots that can process 4 billion data points while we're still, waiting for our morning coffee to brew. You cannot outstrive an algorithm. If you try to compete with a machine on its own terms, speed, accuracy, data processing, you are guaranteeing yourself a massive inferiority complex.
Think about the implication of that for you, the listener. If a machine can perfectly execute the tasks you built your entire professional identity around, who even are you?
It's terrifying.
That fear of becoming replaceable causes immense quiet anxiety in offices right now, even if AI hasn't directly automated your specific daily tasks yet.
How it's
Just the mere presence of this technology fundamentally threatens the way we validate our existence.
And the tension between our fragile human egos and this ruthless machine efficiency leads to some, frankly, hilarious, albeit painful, realities in modern work culture.
Oh, absolutely. And Ponce writes about this, mourning the death of what they call performance theater.
Performance theater is such a perfectly cutting phrase.
It is so accurate, and it hurts because we are all guilty of it. Think about the years we have all spent building standard operating procedures. And Ponce jokes that these SOPs often resemble military briefings.
Oh, I've seen them.
Yeah.
We would demand that the IT department build these incredibly complex dashboards. Dashboards with so many dials and color-coded widgets that they would literally make your eyes water just to look at them.
Right, and we treated them like the ultimate gold standard of professionalism. Build the perfect, rigid system once, enforce it ruthlessly, and run it forever.
Wait, I'm actually going to defend those dashboards for a second.
Yeah.
Psychologically, humans desperately need order. We need structure to feel safe in an otherwise chaotic, unpredictable business world.
Okay, fair point.
Weren't those SOPs and flowcharts serving a vital psychological function? They were the guardrails that kept a business from descending into total anarchy. I mean, I spent 3 months of my life building a color-coded Tableau dashboard, and I will defend its honor.
They were serving a psychological function, sure, but definitely not the one you think. If we look at Irving Goffman's sociological theory of impression management, we get a much clearer, if slightly embarrassing, picture.
Oh no. What did Goffman say?
Goffman argued that all social interaction is basically a theatrical play. We are all actors. We have our front stage personas where we use props, settings, and wardrobes to control how other people perceive us.
Oh, come on. Are you telling me my military-grade SOPs were just props?
They were 100% props. They were elaborate theatrical props we used to signal our sheer competence and our indispensable value to the organization.
Wow.
We were managing impressions. We loved playing the role of the vital, overworked executive who alone holds the keys to the impossibly complex system. We aren't actually mad that AI is doing the data entry faster. We are furious that AI ruined our theatrical performance.
It walked right onto our corporate stage, kicked over the scenery, and revealed that the wizard behind the curtain was just doing basic arithmetic.
Exactly. Okay, I reluctantly concede the point that it's painfully accurate. But if the curtain is pulled back, and we can no longer win by just being highly efficient data processors playing a part on the corporate stage, what on earth is our new competitive advantage?
How do you actually survive this shift?
Well, Empanza argues that we need a total ground-up mindset reset. Operations can no longer be viewed as the rigid backbone of a business.
Because a backbone implies something stiff, structural, and unyielding.
Right. Instead, operations needs to become the nervous system.
And the nervous system, meaning the goal is no longer just efficiency and keeping things neat. The goal is responsiveness.
Exactly. Today's business environment doesn't reward the company with the neatest 50-page SOP. It rewards the company that can sense a shift in the market and pivot its entire strategy in a matter of hours, not fiscal quarters.
So you have to design for adaptability, not for perfect static order.
And to achieve that adaptability, you have to aggressively lean into the things that machines fundamentally cannot do. This is where Josh Berson's research on human intuition versus AI is incredibly revealing because it demystifies the technology.
Yeah, because people throw around terms like AI as if it's literal magic.
Right, and it isn't. AI operates on probabilistic neural networking. It takes vast amounts of data and uses vector calculus to predict the single best answer.
Okay, wait, hold on. English, please. Vector calculus.
Fair enough. Think of vector calculus as a mathematical way of measuring multiple changing variables all at once. If a baseball is flying through the air, vector calculus can track its speed, the wind resistance, and the angle of descent all at the same time.
Just to predict exactly where it will land.
Exactly. AI does that, but with billions of data points. It is brilliant at what the psychologist Daniel Kahneman calls slow analytic intelligence.
Which sounds counterintuitive, right? Because a computer is incredibly fast. Why does Kahneman call it slow intelligence?
Because Kahneman isn't talking about processing speed in terms of seconds. He's talking about the nature of the thinking. Slow thinking is heavy, methodical, step-by-step logic.
Ah, I get it. The kind of intense calculation that exhausts the human brain.
Exactly. AI can do Kahneman's slow, heavy logic in milliseconds.
But as Burson notes, despite all that heavy logic, AI is incredibly naive about human context. It completely lacks millions of years of human evolution, genetics, and epigenetic capabilities.
Epigenetics being the way our behaviors and environments can cause changes that affect the way our genes work. It's the biological legacy of human survival.
Right. Our human intelligence and our gut-level emotional intuition is heavily based on our genealogy, our history, and our lived messy experiences.
And Burson gives a phenomenal example to illustrate this difference. Imagine a high-stakes business meeting. You have two seasoned executives looking at the exact same set of quarterly revenue data. The AI system gathered the data, ran the vector calculus, and provided the report instantly. But the AI doesn't make the actual business decision. Executive A looks at the data, smiles, and says, "This is great, the trend is up, let's celebrate our success."
And Executive B.
Executive B looks at the exact same numbers, frowns, and says, "Why aren't we growing faster? Our competitors are launching new products. We need to double our marketing spend and push harder."
That divergence right there, that is the uniquely human element. Machines can compute the probabilities and print the chart, but human emotion, ego, ambition, risk tolerance, and evolutionary survival instincts are what actually determine the decision.
Burson points out that this messy, magical combination of differing human intuitions is what allows some companies to boldly outmaneuver others.
You cannot algorithmically replicate the human intuition that tells a CEO to kill a profitable product line simply because the long-term vibe of the market feels wrong.
So the goal for you, the listener, is to shift your personal value away from the data processing and anchor it entirely in the human interpretation. The psychologist J.P. Guilford had a concept that perfectly explains this dividing line.
Divergent versus convergent thinking, right?
Exactly. AI is the ultimate convergent thinker.
Meaning it converges on one answer. You give it a problem, and it uses all available historical data to converge on the single most probable, factually correct answer.
Right. But humans excel at divergent thinking. Guilford tested this with famous assessments like the alternative uses test.
Oh, I've heard of this. You hand a person a simple wooden toothpick and ask them to think of as many different uses for it as possible.
Yes. A highly creative human mind won't just say, cleaning teeth. They will say you could use it to reset a router, to test if a cake is baked, to build a miniature bridge, or to clean the lint out of a smartphone charging port.
They generate hundreds of wildly varied, unexpected uses. That requires imagination and lateral leaps, not just calculation.
Let's ground that in corporate reality for a second. If you are a financial analyst, the AI is going to generate the quarterly revenue report. That is the convergent answer. The machine did the math.
Your value is no longer producing that report.
Exactly. Your value is being the divergent thinker who looks at that report and asks, what if we use this localized revenue drop as an excuse to completely pivot our marketing strategy to a new demographic we've never targeted before?
The machine will never spontaneously ask that question.
Never. And the most successful people in this new era are going to be the ones who purposefully divide their work along those lines.
They'll let the AI handle the convergent, mundane, repetitive tasks.
Which completely frees up their mental energy to engage in divergent, creative problem solving.
And when you strike that balance, you reach what the psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls flow. It is the ultimate state of optimal psychological experience.
Csikszentmihalyi spent his whole career studying this, didn't he?
Yeah, and he found that flow only happens when there's a perfect balance between the challenge of an activity and a person's skill level. If a task is too easy, like manual data entry, you get bored and disengaged.
And if a task is too hard and you lack the tools, you get crippled by anxiety.
Exactly. By letting automation handle the easy, repetitive stuff that used to bore us to tears, we can constantly seek out new, complex challenges. We can push our uniquely human skills, our relationship building, our storytelling, our ability to build trust and navigate office politics right to that sweet spot of flow.
So bringing all of this together, we've gone from the technological reality of flattened mazes through the psychological dread of losing our conditions of worth. We've mocked our own performance theater, and we've landed on the power of human intuition and divergent thinking.
What a ride. So what is the ultimate takeaway for the person listening right now?
I think it takes us back to Carl Rogers. Rogers argued that a healthy human self-concept is never a fixed, rigid identity. It is fluid. We are all always in a constant state of becoming.
The state of becoming. I really like that.
The future does not belong to the people who are simply the best at one specific rigid task. Being an expert pivot table builder is no longer a career safety net.
Definitely not.
The future belongs to those who continuously learn, adapt, and reinvent their cognitive maps as the technology changes the maze. If you can embrace imperfection and adaptability as a constant, as Ponce suggests, you won't just survive the age of automation. You will actually thrive in it.
And that leads to a final, slightly provocative thought for you to mull over as we wrap up. If AI can perfectly mimic the what of your job, the output, the data, the polished reports, it strips away all the comforting busy work you used to hide behind.
It forces you to finally confront the why.
Exactly. Why do you do what you do? Going forward, what messy, emotional, uniquely human strength will you lean into when the machine inevitably takes over your spreadsheets?
A profound question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.